Welcome to Work from the Inside Out, a podcast that highlights real-life stories, practical strategies, and best practices for transitioning your career from unhappiness and dissatisfaction to fulfillment, meaning, and joy. Now here is your host, career and executive coach, Tammy Guler-Loeb.
Hey everybody, I am really delighted to introduce today's guest, Stephanie Vozza. Stephanie has been a writer and author for more than 3 decades. For the last 9 years, she's been a columnist for Fast Company, one of my favorite publications, where she covers leadership, productivity, and careers. Her byline has also appeared in magazines that include Inc., Entrepreneur, Success, and Parade, and she has written for numerous companies such as US Bank, Smartsheet, MasterCard, LinkedIn, and Intel. Stephanie has also written 2 books, including one she co-wrote with a teenage philanthropist. In 2006, she launched a website called The Organized Parent, where she sold products to help make busy moms' lives easier. She sold the company 5 years later to Franklin Covey. Earlier this year, after suffering a personal tragedy, she launched a blog to chronicle her mission to put more wow moments into her life. Please join me in welcoming Stephanie Vozza. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you so much, Tammy. Thanks for having me.
Well, I appreciate you being here very much. I've been a fan of your work. I've been reading your columns and just said, I have to talk to this person. I really love her work. So I'm delighted to have you here and I'm really excited to learn even more about your journey. So as you know, on Work from the Inside Out, we love to begin at the beginning and talk about your formative years a little bit and see how those may or may not have informed where you are today. So take us back to some of those earlier years and tell us about them.
This is a great question. And I had to think about it. And when I thought about it, I kind of realized I was surprised I hadn't connected the dots earlier. So I had a really happy childhood. 2 amazing parents that were present and engaged and just wonderful. And I really thought that my childhood was just typical and normal until I got a little older and I realized that my friends' parents weren't like mine, especially my mother. My mom was someone who did everything with gusto. I mean, when she was a teenager, she was president of the Elvis fan club in her city. She danced on American Bandstand, if anyone is old enough to remember that show.
I am.
Yes. Yeah. And her nickname was Crazy Legs. So she was something else. And she worked also when I was growing up. And this is in the 70s. In our circle, I think she was the only mom who worked. And she sold real estate. And she set records. She was a trailblazer. She, created new records in her office. I mean, she really, anything she did it all in. And she really put that same spirit into raising my sister and me. One of the stories that I think is kind of a good example is when I was about 6, she entered me into a beauty pageant.
Oh, wow.
This is before the days of toddlers and tiaras. This is in the 70s. And I had to model 2 outfits, a party dress and playwear. And so she had a dress custom made for me. Was white with little white gloves, and she had a matching parasol made. So I came out like none of the other girls had a parasol. And then for the playwear competition or the part of the pageant, all the other little girls had shorts and a cute top, and I came out in complete horseback riding gear with jodhpurs and boots and a velvet blazer and a whip. And a whip. So, I mean, she just, she kind of taught us if we're going to do something, go all in, go big.
I love it.
And then my dad really complimented my mother because he taught my sister and I that we could do anything we wanted. And his big thing was to say, how hard can it be? And so I really think the two of them combined have given me this foundation where I haven't been afraid to try things, to go after what I really want, even if I think the chance of me getting it is slim. So thank you for asking that question because I had not connected those dots.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad. I can really appreciate that. Having been a girl who grew up in the 60s and 70s myself, and was also really encouraged to believe that anything I wanted to do, I could do. But that wasn't the case for females at that time, normally. So it's nice to hear that.
Yeah.
To hear that.
Yeah, and talking to some of my friends, I learned that that was not typical. So I'm glad you had that same experience too.
Yeah, yeah. So, where did you grow up? I'm just curious geographically. Where were you?
Outside Chicago, about an hour outside Chicago.
And
Rockford, Illinois is the city.
Oh, Rockford, yes, yeah. So, so take us forward from there. Sounds like you had a really lovely childhood, which is always nice to hear about.
I did. I went to college. I went off to college. I went to Loras College, which is a small college in Dubuque, Iowa. I originally thought I was going to be a pharmacist, and I took I had to fill an English credit, and I took a writing class, and that just changed everything. I ended up changing my major, and much to the surprise of my parents, I went to the registrar's office and changed my major. But I decided to become a writer. And my original plan was I wanted to write advertising. I had this idea that I was going to be sitting in at a conference room around a big table and writing slogans. And when I graduated from school, in the meantime, my dad worked in the auto industry, and we were transferred to Michigan. So I ended up moving to Michigan. When I graduated from college, I did get a job at an ad agency, but it was in the custom publishing department. And we created magazines for companies like Chevrolet and Frisky's Cat Food and Century 21 and PGA. And so I got a job in that department. And that's when I started writing articles. And I would get sent on travel assignments, and I would interview interesting people. And that's how I kind of fell into the kind of writing that I still do today.
Wow.
Was through that. Yeah.
So your love of writing really just developed from that one class you took in college.
It did.
That's amazing. Isn't that something where you make one choice? I always think of those as, those pivot moments where you just make one decision, not knowing any idea where it's going to go. And it changes everything. That's so amazing.
Well, and the truth was that I was taking a lot of science classes and math classes for the pharmacy major, and I was struggling. And I had always done well in high school, but I was really struggling. And this writing class was the only class that I just loved, and I was doing well in it. And so it was an accident that it just, how you pick something that fits into your schedule. And I just picked that one kind of out of the blue. And so it really did change the course of my life.
Yeah. And so you started off more in the sort of, it sounds like copywriting, advertising type of work?
Yes. So we published magazines. So for example, if you bought a Chevrolet car, the dealership would send you this magazine. And it was a regular magazine. And there were advertisements in there for Chevrolet products, but we would do stories about travel. And so the very first article I ever wrote was a feature on a man who traveled around the Upper Peninsula of Michigan in a Chevrolet van. And he wrote for the Detroit Free Press. And so I traveled up to northern Michigan to interview him. And that was the very first story I ever wrote. And it was a lot of fun. I worked for that company for, gosh, I don't even remember, several years.
Wow.
Got sent on various story assignments, and it was a lot of fun.
So what made you decide to make a change at some point? Clearly you stopped working for that company. What was that pivot point like for you?
Well, I met my husband and we moved to Tennessee. And he worked for General Motors and was transferred to Tennessee. And at that time, we were starting a family. Before we had our first child, I wrote for the Nashville newspaper here, the Tennessean, and I started writing. My first stuff was to write fashion and home. I was on a freelance basis. And then I wrote it, but once I had our first child, I started to write more things about parenting and family events in the city and things like that. And so my career just kind of shifted as my life shifted. I stayed home. I have two boys, and I stayed home with them, but I freelanced a little bit. And as my coworkers would leave the paper and go to other places, they would often bring me with them. They would hire me to write for wherever they had gone. So my work kind of randomly, organically expanded.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I mean, as a career coach, it's kind of like what I say to people all the time. Most people find their next job through their network, right? And it sounds like, and because I think you had this wonderful foundation of, parents telling you could do pretty much whatever you wanted to do, you probably stayed open to whatever showed up and kind of dipped a toe in the water and then went swimming wherever the water was, it sounds like.
Yes, I did. I had one of a coworker had left the Tennessean and gone to a business magazine, and he needed somebody to write economic development guides. Well, I had never written anything even close to that.
Yeah.
But he said, would you be interested? And I thought, well, like my dad would always say, how hard can it be? And sure, I can do that. And so that's kind of been how I've gotten into these different niches in writing, was just by thinking, well, sure, I can try that. Some have panned out better than others, but they've all given me a lot of experience and ability to try new things.
Wow. What would you say was the most unusual thing you were asked to write?
Oh, gosh. Well, then one of the most fun things I got to write, well, there's a few. One of the most fun things is I got to go on a bicycle trip in Vermont, where we biked from bed and breakfast to bed and breakfast. And I was there for a week. That was a lot of fun. I interviewed the host of The Dating Game, and I got to spend the day behind the scenes with him. That was great fun.
Was that Bob Eubanks or someone else?
No, it was the New Dating Game. It was a guy named Jeff McGregor. It was like they were doing like a reboot of it, of the show. And so that was fun. I got to spend the day on the set there. I don't know. Yeah, I've had a lot of different fun.
Wow. Yeah, those are really, and then you talk about economic development and fashion and all these things. And that is fascinating. And so you've just continued to I don't mean just write, because I know how much work it is. And you've also written 2 books. So how did the books come about? Especially you did one with a teenage philanthropist. That's kind of interesting. How did that come about?
Yeah, so I took a hiatus from writing when we lived in Tennessee. Then my husband's job moved us back to Michigan, and so I took a break from writing for a little bit, and I launched a website called The Organized Parent, where I sold products to help moms get organized. And it was when I owned that company that I wrote a book. That my first book was called The 5-Minute Moms Club, and it was tips on quick things you could do to make your life easier. And then it was through that publisher, they were the publisher, or it was the agent of a girl named Talia Lamont. She was at the time 16, and she had organized during Hurricane Katrina, she had organized kids to go trick-or-treating and raise money for the hurricane relief. And so she started a foundation to help, because a lot of kids would reach out to her and say, I want to do something. How did you do it? And so she started an organization called Random Kid. And it was basically the power of any random kid can make a difference in the world. She ended up speaking. She was on a speaking tour. She got a book deal from Simon and Schuster, but she needed some help writing the book. And so the agent from my book was also her agent, and he connected us.
Wow.
And so it was a total random, random kid. This was a random meeting.
Wow.
So I worked with her on that book. And that book is called The Power. Oh gosh, it's been like 12 years since I wrote it. I don't remember the title of it, but it's about how any random kid or any random person can make a difference.
We'll put that in the show notes. We'll find it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I bet you didn't see that one coming.
No, I did not. I really did not. And I am still close with her family today. That was a wonderful experience.
Wow.
Yeah, she went on to go to Stanford, and really impressive young girl. And so, but that was a great experience that I did not see coming. It just kind of it landed, they called and said, would you want to help this girl write this book? And so of course I said yes.
Wow. I love it. I just love all the sort of twists and turns and different experiences that you've had. How did you come about to start writing about leadership and productivity and careers and all? Because that's how I discovered you, was through Fast Company. I'm curious about how that came about.
Well, the way it happened is, when I took my break to launch the website, I had been so inspired beforehand, because I would interview a lot of business owners when I was writing the economic development guides. And I always thought that would be so great to start a business. And that's why I launched the website. But I realized after I sold the company that being a writer and being a freelance writer is a business. And I hadn't approached it like that before. I saw it more as not really a hobby, but as the work always came to me kind of organically. So I decided to set out and really market myself as a business writer who's a former small business owner. And I took my job very seriously. I joined ASJA, which is the American Society of Journalists and Authors. I attended conferences. I networked. I really started to build my circle, and that made all the difference in the world. Someone introduced me to an editor at Entrepreneur magazine, and I started writing for that magazine. That was one of the first that I started to write for. And then my editor at Entrepreneur left and went to Fast Company, and she took me with her.
Oh, wow.
And I've been writing for her. Now I realized it's 10 years. She just celebrated her 10-year anniversary as an editor. And she said, that means you've been with me for 10 years too. So Fast Company opened a lot of doors. Fast Company is a sister pub to Inc. And so that's how I got into Inc. And it truly, every job that I think I have gotten, every writing assignment and every editor I've met has been through someone I knew. It's very, very little cold stuff, mostly warm connections.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the way of the world in general. I feel like a broken record sometimes telling my clients that really the best pathway to your next opportunity is through word of mouth, even if it's someone you don't know today. But the more people you talk to, the better your odds are of finding out about, either an interesting company or an interesting role, or just another pathway to something that could be more meaningful and satisfying to you, rather than just looking online at job descriptions. And I'm constantly telling people that. So your example is perfect for that. That's terrific. And so this is, I mean, I just really enjoyed all the different pieces that you've written about this. The other thing that you've been doing is writing a blog called Wow Moments. Tell us about that.
So the idea for my Wow Moment blog was actually, it happened a couple years ago. I was taking a tennis lesson, and my instructor, who's 84, which is a wow moment all in itself.
Yeah.
She was a former HR director. And so she would start off the session with like an icebreaker activity. And so we played Two Truths and a Lie. And I had always wanted to play that game. So I was really excited. And the people in the class were saying things like, I have 2 cats. I like oatmeal cookies. I love to ride my bike and things like that. And so when it got to be my turn, I said, I've written 2 books. I've been on MTV in my bikini, and I was a contestant on a game show. And everyone said, wow. And the instructor said, that's how you play the game. And so the game stopped for a minute as we talked about the truths, which were, I was on MTV in my bikini, and I had written 2 books, as we just mentioned. And I thought maybe I had inspired the next person to maybe, dig a little deeper, but it actually went right back to, I like dogs. I like, chocolate chip cookies, same kind of thing. And so I was driving home that night, and I thought, am I unusual? I mean, I get not everyone's going to be on MTV in a bikini, but surely people have things that they've done in their life that are wow moments.
Yeah.
And then I thought, okay, when's the last time I've had a wow moment? And it had been a while. So I decided I was going to change that. And a couple of weeks later, a friend of ours who hosts a radio show was going to be going. There was a city near where I live that had a horrible flood and just terrible devastation. And so he was asking people if they wanted to come with him. He had this big RV with his face on the side of it for his radio show, but he was trying to get people to come and volunteer with some of the work that needed to be done. And so I went. I said, sure. And it was a wow moment for sure. And I came home and I thought I was going to write a blog about it. And then I just put it on the back shelf and went on with my daily life and kind of forgot about it. I think it's easy to just focus on the regular routine stuff. And that's what I had done. And then something happened that changed everything. And that was the day after Christmas, we found out my husband had a tumor on his pancreas, and it was cancer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but yeah. And he, a 4-month, really, really strong battle, and he passed away.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. That was a wow moment that I would never have seen coming or wanted. But it made me realize that life is too short. And so all those things that I said I wanted to do someday, or those things that sound like fun, but then you say, oh, I'll do it later, all of a sudden it became a lot more urgent. So yeah. I got that blog post out and decided that that's what I was going to do. I was going to put more wow moments in my life.
I love it. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, I appreciate you sharing that. I mean, for so many reasons, I appreciate you sharing that. And I'm sorry for your loss. And yet I can appreciate you, really taking your grief and putting it into some action in that way and doing something that you love to do.
Yeah.
So the blog, you just put entries in whenever I know I've read some of them. It's been a little while, but I have read some of them. Is it something that you put entries into on a regular basis, or just whenever you have a wow moment?
I do. I post twice a week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, I knew I wanted to make sure that I kept with this practice. And I knew that putting some structure around it would really help me move forward.
Sure.
And so I knew the blog would be helpful. So I blog twice a week. One or Tuesdays, my blog post is generally tips and advice on how to put more wow moments in your life. And then every Friday, I share what I call my weekly wows, which are some of the wow moments that I experienced over the week. And they can be big, they can be small.
Yeah.
They can happen spontaneously, or they can be something that I planned for and made happen.
I love it. And I can imagine too, some of these wow moments are probably things that it's how you frame it for yourself, how you look at it, right? In terms of, I went out for a walk. All right, I went out for a walk, but what did you notice when you went out for a walk, right?
Right.
And how do you just even take something that sounds so ordinary as going for a walk and realize that there are things that you might notice along the way that you didn't notice before?
I think it's one of those things, like my sister will call it, like you decide to buy a yellow car and all of a sudden you see other yellow cars all over on the road. And it's like that for me with my wows. It started where, and I actually go for a walk every day, and I always find something that makes me stop, something I would have walked right by in the past. And whether that's a feather on the ground, which I seem to find several of those, or it's one day I was walking and I noticed that there was a branch that had somehow grown through a fence, like the slat in the fence, and had bloomed a flower on it. And I just stopped and looked at it, or it's just listening to laughter. One of the places I walk is a park, and just the kids on the playground, just really listening to their laughter. And so there's so much that's around you if you slow down and take your blinders off.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of taking the time and being intentional.
Yeah.
And so, I find something every day that can make me say, wow.
I love that.
Yeah. And then other things are big things that I plan. Yeah. That I plan for. And so.
Yeah. What kinds of things have you planned for? Anything you can share with us? Not that we won't go and read, but.
Of course. So I had made a list of 100 dreams of things I wanted to do. A couple years ago, I had made this list. And so but the list was a Word doc that sat on my computer untouched for a long time. So I got that out, and I had a list of these things that I always thought would be fun. So taking an improv class was something I thought sounded like fun. And so I signed up, and that was one of the very first things I did. And I took an improv class with Second City online, which was so much fun. I really, truly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So that was a wow and that took me out of my comfort zone. A lot of my friends were surprised I did that, and I was surprised I did it too, but I was glad I did it. I really enjoyed it. So that was one thing I did. I got a tattoo. That was another thing I did. That had been on my list, and my boys, I have two sons, and my oldest got married. And so my daughter-in-law and my two sons, we all got tattoos.
Oh, fun.
So we did that together. Yeah, that was fun. So it's just been things like that just big and small. I wanted to be, one of my things on my list was to be an extra on a television show or something. And I found a casting company that was looking for extras. They were filming a promo for ESPN's college football day. And so I went on it, and you can't see me because I'm in a crowd, but that was just a fun day that I got to do that. And so it's those things now where I think, oh, that sounds like fun. I know if I don't put it on the calendar right away, it's gonna go away.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna forget about it or think I'll do it later. But I've gotten to where I'm very intentional about those things.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot of fun, a lot of variety too.
Yes.
Yeah. So what's next on your list? Anything that you can share with us?
Well, I do have, this is kind of a weird one, but for some reason, and I can't explain it, since I was in my 20s, I have wanted to ride on a Zamboni during an NHL hockey game. And I found out, surprisingly, a friend of a friend actually is the Zamboni driver for the Nashville Predators. So he told me, you can do that. Here's where you sign up. So I don't have it booked yet, but I've waited for hockey season to come back, but that is on my schedule.
Well, and lo and behold, see how networking has paid off one more time, right?
Yes. I found you got to put yourself out. You got to put this out into the world, and and things just align to make it happen.
I love it. Oh, this has been so much fun, Stephanie, to talk to you. I appreciate hearing your story, from learning about your childhood and your parents and all of that. And your wow moments. I feel like I'm having a wow moment with you right now.
Thank you.
So how can people learn more about you and your work? Where would they find you? What's the best place?
Well, you can find my work at Fast Company. I work for the work-life department. I do 9 stories a month, so I'm not hard to find there. And then my blog is wow-moments.com, and I blog twice a week. Right. And I hope people find inspiration in. I've been told by several people that just reading about my stuff has encouraged them to do their own. I have a friend who signed up for a hip hop dance lesson because she knew that I took the improv class, and she thought, well, if Stephanie can do that, then I can do something fun too. And I have another friend who got a tattoo because of of being encouraged by me. So I would definitely just encourage people that whether it's fun things or it's something in your career, like whatever makes you say, wow, go for it. Don't wait. Seriously, life is too short. Be intentional about the things that you really want to do and put them on the calendar.
I love it. What great advice. And I was just going to ask you my final question. I think you already answered it, but I'll ask it anyway and see if there's anything else that you want to bestow on our audience. And that is, as you know, we really do like to talk about the different changes and decisions people make throughout their careers. And a lot of people listening here are thinking about what's next for them. What would be a key piece of advice you might give to somebody who's trying to make decisions about what's next in their career?
I would say, don't be afraid to reinvent yourself, and don't be afraid to try new things. I think that so much of my life has happened and evolved organically because of something I was willing to try or because of someone I met. And I really believe those relationships make all the difference, and they have opened so many doors for me. So I would say, get out from behind your computer. A lot of the people that I've met, I did in person. I would go to conferences and I made great friends. And just put yourself out there, because you never know what can happen. And so many of the things I've done, I could never have imagined doing when I was in my 20s, and that just happened. And being willing and open and being not afraid to say yes and to try things, even if you're afraid you're going to fail, just try it.
Yeah. I love it. Stephanie, thank you so much for being here today. This has been an absolute joy.
Thank you for having me. This was fun for me.
I hope you enjoyed my interview with Stephanie Vozza. It was so interesting to speak with her and learn about her early life, her various transitions, and her wow moments. What is your key takeaway from our interview? If you are interested in any of the resources mentioned in today's podcast, you can find them in the show notes on my website at www.tammygulerloeb.com/podcast. Just look for episode 239. Are you anticipating your next professional move? Check out my award-winning book, Work from the Inside Out: Break Through 9 Common Obstacles and Design a Career That Fulfills You. It's available through my website, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, independent bookstores, or through your local library. If you were inspired by this episode with Stephanie, please share it with your friends and colleagues, and please do subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Remember, subscribing is always free. If you're enjoying the podcast, it would mean so much to me if you would write a brief and honest review on Apple Podcasts. It's easy to find. Go to my website, tammygulerloeb.com/podcast. Click the link near the Apple Podcast button to follow the instructions provided there. You can also help sustain this podcast by buying me a cup of coffee at buymeacoffee.com/TammyGL. Since this podcast is self-funded, your support is acknowledged and appreciated. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, it's never too late or too impossible to increase your sense of fulfillment and satisfaction in your work and other meaningful activities, including your wow moments. Let me know how it's going for you. I always love hearing from you. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to the Work from the Inside Out podcast. For more information, you can find us at www.workfromtheinsideout.com.